Hey everybody! Holy mackerel! This is exciting. We're going live. It's I don't know if anyone's watching this, if anyone can see this, but this is what we're doing. We're going live, and it's book release day. And book release day is super exciting. My first book is out. It's the only creative process that matters. We got the image behind us, so. Um, Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Saul Colt, and if you don't know me yet, that's cool. Hopefully, you will in about 30 seconds. I'm the founder of the Idea Integration Company, the most creative marketing agency in the world. You know, if you've ever said, "Wait, who the hell thought of that?" It was maybe, small chance it was us. I've spent my entire career helping brands stand out, get talked about, and sell more stuff by being bold, being weird, being human, and unforgettable. And today we're doing exactly that, but we're doing it for me. So that's right. This isn't about a client. It's about a book, my book. It's called The Only Creative Process That Matters. You're not going to see me hold it up because I actually don't even have a physical copy of it yet. They're in the mail for me. So we'll do an unboxing video or something when that happens. But it's called The Only Creative Process That Matters because I genuinely believe it is. It's the only one that's made people laugh, make people think, make people cry, and spend money for over 2 decades. I know I look, like a petite flower, but I've been around for a long time. So why are we here? Simple. I want to sell between 10 and 100,000 copies of this book while we're on this live stream. You heard that right. Between 10 and six figures, 10 copies or 100,000 books in one day. And I'm not logging off until we do that. Think of this as a creative filibuster. We're not logging off until we hit that number. Maybe we'll take some bathroom breaks. But if we do, I'll bring the laptop with me. And to be honest with you, I'm probably only going to go about 2 hours because I do have a business call at, in 2.5 hours I'll need to prepare for, but maybe I'll come back later. So over the next few hours or minutes, however long it takes to sell 100,000 copies of my book, I'm going to read some of the book to you. I'm going to share stories. I'm going to answer questions, maybe spill some tea from the marketing world. I've also invited some amazing guests to drop in and heckle me or hype me. I don't know if anyone's going to show up, but we'll see what happens. This is going to be kind of like a free form thing, and we're just going to sort of see where it takes us. So it's a bit like a telethon. You remember Jerry Lewis and Lou Rawls? They would have the telethon, and this is kind of what we're doing here, but I'm not asking for money. I guess I am asking for money, but we're not trying to get kids out of their wheelchairs. We're trying to sell books. So, think of it like a telethon with like better hair. So, this is what we're going to talk about, and we're going to keep going. Why creative thinking is your most valuable currency, how to come up with ideas that don't suck, why most people brainstorm like they're filing taxes, and how to fix that, and what makes this book different from the 94 others sitting on the shelf collecting dust. So grab a drink, call a friend, Venmo your mom, tell them Saul's going live, and most importantly, buy the book. Okay, let's not kid around. We're here for a reason. And the reason is kind of simple.
Buy my book! 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 Buy my.
I love the fact that is going to go on forever and ever and ever and never stop. So, buy the book, one for yourself, one for your team. Don't be shy. This is something kind of really important. And get one for in the office. The guy in the office who keeps pitching about let's do NFTs and still thinks it's like 2021. Let's make some noise. Let's break some rules and prove that bold creativity still wins. And again, we're trying to sell 100,000 books today. So let's go. So I'm going to actually start. I I sent out a LinkedIn or Facebook message. I don't even know which, and I asked people to um, send in some questions. And if you want to send in some questions now, you can. But I asked people to send in some questions, and they did. We have about 35 questions, I think. So I'm going to start answering some questions now. If you want, please send in more. It's cool, and I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can. And yeah, let's try to make this fun and interesting for everybody. And yeah, let's go. So help me um, ask the questions. I have a friend here because there's nobody to ask the questions for me. So we're gonna, this is kind of like a young version of me, and I should put on this hand so it's right in the camera. This is like my little hat tip to Wayne White because hey look, oh, it's a green screen and a green shirt. That's not going to work. So we'll have to bring in our friend, the police officer. This is actually my security because I'm going to be so famous now that I'm going to need security, as I'm sure you can imagine. So let's dive into the questions. So first question. Here we go. Ready? Hey, Saul, why did you write this book? Well, it's funny you ask, and it's a good thing you ask. I wrote the book because the world is literally drowning in boring beige media, and I wanted to give people, literally a lifeboat. And I feel like I can use the word literally now because I'm an author, and it's about literal stuff, literary stuff. I spent 25 years creating stuff that actually works. This book is me handing over the playbook. If you do buy the book, and hopefully you do, I talk about how a lot of, I'm passing this on because, this is literally, I'm giving you everything I know, and you're going to become my legacy. And, as ridiculous as that sounds, I actually kind of take it, for real. So let's go to question number 2. How long did you work on the book? Well, that's an interesting question. I would say technically about 4 to 5 months, but really, it took a lifetime of getting punched in the face by the industry and still coming back swinging. Every chapter is built from wins, scars, experiments, and a whole lot of, what if we just tried this insane idea? And I I've mentioned a few times, I'm trying to use, Jewish guilt, but my dad passed away about 3 months ago. A lot of this book was written in his hospital room while, I was, sort of taking a little bit of time off from work and caring for my dad and spending time with my dad. So, a lot of emotion and a lot of everything went into this book, so I took it very seriously. A lot of people are going to be surprised that it's not joke. There's a lot of research that went into it. There's a lot of heart that went into it, and I'm very proud of it. All right, question number 3. Why should I buy the book? That's a great question, security man. I think you should buy the book if you're tired of being average, and this book will teach you to be unforgettable. This is not another 10 steps to mediocrity book. It's a proven, tested, and slightly unhinged process that actually gets people talking. And I think about the time we're in right now, and I think about how, a lot of people are working remotely. A lot of people are getting downsized because of AI. A lot of people are struggling and everything. And this, outside of COVID time and the pandemic, I think this is one of the most important periods going forward that we absolutely need to stand out, and we absolutely need people to notice you and to swing for the fences and not become complacent, because those are the people that are going to get fired. The people that don't stand up and stand out are going to be changing industries or changing like things. It's sad, but it's true. Okay, question number 4. Who is this book for? I hope that this isn't coming off as racist or anything. He's got a deep voice. Who's this book for? I wrote this book for you, but also I thought, um, you know, this book is for marketers, it's for creatives, it's for entrepreneurs, basically anyone trying to stand out and not suck. If you've ever been told play it safe at work, this book is your permission slip to do the opposite. We're getting a couple comments in here. Mike Tracy. Mike, it's always nice to see you. Thank you. You commented, I bought your book this morning. Thank you so much. That's very much appreciated. Mike and I worked together many years ago. Very, very good guy. Someone I admire a great deal. David Hollowell just wrote, I just bought the book. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching and checking in and all this stuff. And please, when you read the book, reach out. Let me know what you think. Leave comments, all that stuff. What makes your book different from all the other marketing books? That's a great question. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't pad it with fluff. I cut out the junk and gave people the exact tools I use to come up with, billion-dollar ideas. Most books are written by people who study marketing. I do marketing, and I think that's a very, very big difference. I'm not going to, throw anybody under the bus in this or anything like that, but there's a lot of people who are very successful, book writers who've never actually held marketing roles and things like that. And I don't think you can actually be an expert when things are changing as fast as they are if you're not living in the trenches, if you're not actually doing it. So, question number 6. What is the core idea of the book? Let's go right there. What is the core idea of the book? There's a few, different ideas in the book, but I think the core idea is that creativity isn't random. It's a muscle, and I give you the framework to flex it like a pro. My framework, Wombat, What Might Be All The, and Laugh, Think, Cry are how I build campaigns that get remembered and talked about. And, I sort of dispel the myth in the book about the lone genius and lightning strikes and inspiration and all those things. I do believe that, inspiration is a powerful thing. I do believe all those things, but even, people who don't consider themselves creatives can be creative. They can have, flashes of brilliance. They can stand out. They can be wonderful. And the book really, shows you how to do this. So, and that brings us to question number 7, how do I know this actually works? I'll tell you, my work has been featured in 5 New York Times bestselling business books and in the real world where results matter. I've sold millions of dollars in product and built brands from weird little ideas that became, huge, crazy monsters. And that all sounds like humble bragging, and it all sounds like this, but, in a world full of talkers, in a world full of boasters, and in a world full of, people who are, renting Lamborghinis to look more impressive and stuff like that, it really matters that you've done the work. It really matters that other people have validated your work. It really matters, when I say my work's been featured in 5 New York Times bestselling books, that's something I'm enormously proud of, because that means, out in the world, people who, didn't necessarily know me, they were moved in some way to buy my work, and it stuck with them. And when they came down to writing their masterpieces, they included some of my work as part of their teachings. And that's a huge thing for me. That's something I'm very proud of. It's something that it means a lot to me. So, what is the Wombat framework? And this is a big part of the book. Sorry. What is the Wombat framework? So, Wombat is how I find creative gold. And the book is a big, a deep dive into Wombat. But what it stands for is what might be all the. It's a structured way to brainstorm bold ideas. It turns kind of the meh, kind of just good enough ideas into, I don't know if I could swear on this. We'll say holy shit ideas, or whatever. I don't know, but it's a way of framing the questions. It's the word might is really important, because when you ask yourselves what might be all the, it's what might be all the ways we can launch this product. What might be all the ways we can get the word out? What might be all the the things we could do to capture people's attention? And that might actually gives you the reason or the permission to get crazy and to go bold. And it doesn't mean that these are going to be the ideas that you stick on, but the more ideas, the more crazy, the more wombat ideas you throw out there, the higher chance you have of really nailing the one that's valuable, the one that's really great. And question number 9, what is the laugh think cry framework? So laugh think cry is something I've been working with and talking about for many years. It's if Wombat is the way you come up with the ideas, laugh think cry is how you test if the idea will stick. So this book is about finding the idea and vetting it for success. So, laugh, think, cry. Does your idea make someone laugh? Does it make somebody think? Does it make cry? If not, it's probably forgettable. Great ideas aren't just smart, they're emotional. This is your filter for making things that matter. I always tell people, people ask me how I know if an idea is good. If I can hit 2 out of 3 of laugh, think, or cry, I know that the idea is going to be good. If I hit just one, I kind of go back to the drawing board. So if I can hit all 3, I know it's killer. And that's how I move on. Question number 10 I got, is this book for beginners or experts? I would say that the book is really for both. And why I say that is beginners get a crash course in what actually works, and experts get a master class in originality. Wherever you're at, this book will level you up or shake you out of a rut. I consider myself an expert in a lot of things, and I still love reading books of all levels, because they, even a very beginner book will shake something loose, and a very, advanced book will just sort of lay down more foundation for me to keep going. So I think that, the book is really for both. So question number 11, Mr. Security, maybe just whispered in my ear. Okay, so question number 11 was, can I actually apply this stuff to my business? And the answer is yes. Every chapter ends with real world action steps and examples. I think every chapter. You'll walk away with ideas to use today, this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow. This is not just theory to forget next week. This is like this, I don't know else how to say it. This is going to change your life, and it's really important to to know. So let me just remind people how important it is, and I'm going to take a sip of water while you guys are watching.
Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my Buy my book. 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 Buy.
Okay, we're back. People are buying the book, which is good. We're a lot closer to our goal of 100,000, orders before we log off. So, um, you know, question number 12, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of people are curious. Did I write this myself? Yes, every single word. Well, I shouldn't say that. I spoke most of it, into my computer. Uh, I wrote, all of it, but I did speak a lot of it, just, dictating and things like that. But no ghostwriter, no committee, just be my brain in a Google Doc. I even recorded the audiobook. I did something really unique with the audiobook. I invited guests to sit in and interrupt me because, why not make it fun, make it something different and something unique. And that's what we really tried to do. And I think that it came out that way. So hopefully, people will have to wait. The audiobook, the books are available right now. The audiobook is going to be available at the end of the week, and you can sort of judge for yourself. So, speaking of the audiobook, this brings us to question 13. And yes, when I got all the questions, I put them kind of in order to make sure that they were, easier to digest and flow. Um, Question 13, what the hell is a podio book? So that's what I'm calling my audio book. It's part audiobook, it's part podcast, and basically it's the world's first crowd participated audio reading. I don't know if it's really the world's first, but let's just say it is. And what I did was I invited a bunch of people to come in kind of and sit with me kind of in the booth and respond to things and ask me questions and interrupt me and basically just be really a part of it and see where it went. And the audio book or the podio book, however we want to call it, is it we generated about 90 extra minutes of content that wasn't actually in the book, which is kind of interesting, and I think it makes it really valuable and interesting. So, audiobook is I read the audiobook, and I've given credit to the people that sat in, and I call it as told to. And here, let's list all the people who participated. Non Palmero, Joe Caserto, Frank DeAndrea, Don the Idea Guy Holiday, Clint Schaff, Sandy Hubbard, Tammy Lee Gilmore, Sheldon Levine, Michael Budd, and of course the amazing Jenny Gershon. They were all in the audio book, the podio book, and they're very well representative. So, question 14: what if I don't consider myself creative? And this is part of the reason I wrote the book. I like to think everybody is creative. There's been many times in my life that I've been in a room or a boardroom or a brainstorming session, and the best idea comes from like the most junior person in the room, or they're maybe it's the quiet person, and they might not be the most vocal or the most active in ongoing conversations, but better than that is they have a flash of brilliance, and even if it's that minute. And that's why I keep telling people that the underlying theme of this book is that it doesn't matter if you consider yourself creative. Creativity is a skill, it's not a gift. I think it's partly a gift, but it's not all gift, it's not all lone genius. And this book shows you how to build it up. You don't need to be a genius, you need a process, and that's literally what I give you in this book. It's a process, how to come up with more ideas, how to come up with better ideas, basically how to be me. And who doesn't want to be me? And I I don't know who wouldn't want to be. Question 15. How did your career lead to this book? Well, I've built brands with tiny budgets and medium-sized budgets, but every single brand I've ever built has been, based on big ideas and made more noise than some Fortune 500s. Every weird success, every brave client, every lesson from, my journey is in here. The book, there's so many stories I didn't even get to, and so many things that I didn't get to, because I tried to really distill it down to the most important things. I tried not to make this a vanity book, where it's just me patting myself on the back. It's actionable. It's something that you should really keep with you for many years throughout your career. I designed every chapter. If people get it, that's great. If they don't get it, they may think that it's like kind of lazy writing or whatever. But I've designed every chapter to sort of be like a self-siloed concept. So if you don't want to read the whole book over and over, you can actually just go to whatever chapter you need. And because it's a self-siloed sort of thing, there are some repetitive, parts of the book, but every time I repeat the same story, I come at it from a different side or a different angle or different things. And, hopefully people catch on to that and stuff like that. And, one thing, and I'm going to, we're going to take a little break here. I want to see how we're doing, and if we're hitting our target of 100,000 books sold in 1 hour, which would make us, the most popular book ever sold in the history of the world. And, that's kind of the goal for today. But, we talked a lot about the podcast, and we talked about how, the Podio book. And I talked about how we brought people in and we let them tell stories and things like that. I'm going to play a clip for you. I think it's hilarious. If you don't get me or you don't know my sense of humor, this pretty much sums everything up right away.
We're about halfway through this
let's see
list.
how it goes.
I thought this would be a good time for you to throw your story in, because I want to hear it, about me coming and speaking at your class.
Well, I mean, it's a little in the way that sometimes you can be. It's a little it borders on the line of controversy.
You don't need to edit yourself. Just go on.
Many years ago, I taught for a decade at the University of Southern California in an online communities program. I co-taught a course with Dr. Karen North, and Saul was in town and joined us, and we were going to talk about word of mouth marketing, among other things. And Saul gets in there with his, you get in there with your dry, kind of fun wit. And you start off the presentation like every cliched speaker, and you're like, "Hi, I'm Saul, and I'm going to talk to you about points A, B, and C. But before that, I have a question." And everyone's seen every lecture in town has started that way. And you say, "I want to know which of these students is going to sleep with me tonight." And and Dr. Karen North's jaw drops to the floor. She's considering what we're going to do when the lawsuits come in, and half of the students are similarly puzzled, and a couple of people are laughing and awkward laughter. And then you go on with one of your examples of remarkable marketing that sort of crosses the line, and then you have a callback joke to that again, and you make reference to sleeping with one of the students that evening, and then more people are laughing, and then another point in the presentation, you come back with a callback joke. And at that point, 3/4 of the people are laughing. And by the end of the presentation, everyone's in on this ongoing joke. And as you've gone through all these examples, which probably were in that 90% ego, category, like, as you began this chapter with, you pay it all off by explaining that trust is a little bit like a rubber band, and you stretch. If you can't see me if you're listening to this, but you put a rubber band between your index finger and your thumb, and you stretch that rubber band. The tension that's between the shortest point line and where the rubber band would stretch is where you get the attention. And that a lot of marketers go right up to the line of what's expected, and that's why there's so much copycat marketing that sounds the same. But you're saying, hey, I got to stretch that rubber band beyond what's expected, and it's going to be a little risky, and then a little more conservative approach, because that was not very conservative, was to say you got to know the audience well enough to know how far you can stretch the rubber band, because if you break it, it's pretty impossible to repair that rubber band. And so I think of it all the time when I think about, I work in public radio, which is about the safest non wombat style marketed service that I'm aware of. And it's a detriment to what we do, right? Like, I think people generally have a favorable feeling about what we do. It's also not very remarkable. We have several stories that are, a lot of the work we do is worthy of support, certainly. But it's not exactly provocative. The service itself, it's funded in part by the government. It's funded by a bunch of listeners. There's a lot of things that make it be like kind of small c conservative. And so I think of it often about how can we stretch that relationship such that we can earn attention. But you did it and you almost got Karen and I fired. So other than that, it was fantastic. And guess what? The rubber band didn't break. We didn't get fired. Students loved it. They talked about it for weeks to come, and I'm still talking about it now, a decade later.
Somewhere on my hard drive, I have a screen grab of a tweet from that day. A woman, I don't remember who it was, so I'm not going to out her or anything, but I'll try to find it and send it to you directly. She wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, but ultimately the tweet was, I just saw the best talk I've ever seen in university, and I wish I had brought an extra pair of panties with me. And that, like, I've always just thought that was the funniest thing ever.
I'm muted. If that doesn't make you want to buy the book, I don't know what will. But, before I go back to answering questions here, I want to, also kind of go in and say that, just like just like what Clint was saying with the rubber band and things like that. This is the core of my career. This is the core of this book. It's always about, stretching the rubber band, stretching the limits of what you can get away with, knowing, what, it's really about knowing where the limit of breaking is, or the limit of good taste, and crossing the line by like a couple baby steps. And that's really what the book is about. And that's really what I think you have to be doing now for marketing. It's what you have to be doing in a crowded kind of like world. It's what you have to be doing to stand out from a personal branding situation. It's sort of the world we live in right now. And you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to believe me. But the people who do are the people who are, I believe, gonna, have a little bit better time with their careers and things like that. So I said we're going to keep going until we hit either 10 sales or 100,000. There are some sales coming in. This is good. It's very promising. Things are going pretty good, and I have to say thank you, a big huge thank you. I'm going to give her a proper thank you when on Instagram or something later, but I'm going to give her a proper thank you when just to say that so anyways, Lindsay Grove. Lindsay made a very, very large bulk order, and it's very appreciated. So, she's giving them out to her clients. You guys should do the same. But Lindsay basically put us into the best-selling category all by herself, which was, it means a lot. And she's wonderful, and she's been very, 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 very good to me. and my career. So I'm very appreciative, and she will be recognized properly. More than just on this video here. But I have let's go back to some questions. We've got a few more questions. So um, you know, question 16. What if I already read a lot of marketing books? And like, thankfully, you should. This isn't this is the only one that matters, but you should be reading everything that you can consume to challenge yourself to get the word out. So but if you read a lot of marketing books, then this one is you're finally going to have one that doesn't bore you or play it safe. This book isn't it's not here to confirm what you know. It's here to challenge you to go bigger. It's here to challenge the way you're thinking. It's here to challenge what you think you can get away with and what you think you can't get away with. So like yeah, like read everything you can get your hands on, but this book is going to make you better. So a sales question: is this book going to help me sell more? Yes, because people don't buy boring things. This book teaches you how to be the opposite of that. Ideas that spread make sales. This book shows you how to make ideas that spread, and I've shown it many times, but I've generated over $1 billion worth of revenue for the companies I've worked for in the last 25 years or so. And this is I'm going to play you a little clip here, but this is basically me talking to my clients and what they say back.
Do you love me?
Yes.
So that's exactly what that relationship is like. So of course it's going to help you sell more. 18. What was the hardest part of writing the book? I think the hardest part was editing. I wanted every page to punch hard and leave a bruise, but like in a good way. And I wanted to include so many more stories than I did. A lot made it into the book, but like a bunch didn't. There's so many things. I woke up this morning and there was something that popped in my head that I was like, oh man, that should have been in the book. And now I don't even remember. It's like one of the things, you've done so many things. And I know that sounds gross, but even I don't remember all the stuff I've done. So there's a learning lesson for you. People should keep an accomplishment journal and keep everything that you've done in your career to if you ever do want to go back and update your resume or do stuff like this, you have something or write a book, you have something that can easily track everything down. We have another sale in our telethon. Another 3 books just got picked up, so we're very, very excited.
Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book.
It's fun. Here we go. We're keeping the telethon going. What was the song that Jerry Lewis would sing at the end of the telethon? Let me see. Song at end of telethon. You'll never walk alone. We're gonna have to find that and play it. But at the end of this, we're gonna have to do that and go with "You Never Walk Alone." But anyways, back to the questions. What was your favorite chapter? I said this book isn't a vanity project, but there is kind of one self-serving chapter where I list out kind of like a long list of my weirdest, boldest marketing stunts. Everyone in them was real. And that was like a fun chapter because it's just like a trip down memory lane. I explained in the book that I've walked around with the idea of making a book for a long time. And excuse me. And I always thought I would make like the ultimate vanity project where it would just be kind of like a coffee table style book with like every stunt I ever did, in like 2, 3, 4 pages each for stunt. I always thought of it as something you just kind of sit on the toilet and read while, you're looking for inspiration. And then as I sort of, matured a little or realized that this could actually be something quite valuable, and I started doing research and formulated what I wanted the book to be. I realized that it could be something much, much greater. But, like there is that one chapter where I sort of let go and let my ego sort of run rampant and stuff like that. And that's like completely acceptable, as long as it's just one chapter and it's not the whole thing. So, question 20, and we're getting more questions in, so this is good. Is this book only about marketing? And I would say absolutely not. This book is literally, it's about how to think differently, act courageously, and create things that people talk about. It's like, if I was the Unabomber and I had my glasses and my hoodie and I was living in my rustic cabin, this would be my creativity manifesto. It's like it's literally disguised as a marketing handbook, but it's really about, you know, how to think and how to process and how to be more creative and stuff like that. So, question 21, can I use this to train my team? Hell yes. In fact, please do. I wrote it as an actionable, team friendly, and workshop ready book. And, bonus, if you want me to actually train your team, I can do that too. We do full day workshops based on the book and teach people and stuff like that. 22, do you talk about AI in the book? So if you follow me, if you follow my writings on LinkedIn and stuff like, you'll know I'm not the biggest fan of AI. Not much in the main book covers AI, and that's very much on purpose. I wanted the frameworks to stand out on their own. But there is a bonus chapter, and it's all about creativity in the age of AI and how humans still have the edge. So I wrote the book to not be tool dependent and not be tool heavy, because tools change. How many people ran out and became, Friendster experts and stuff like that. So we're trying to, this is about your brain and your thought process. But it'd be ridiculous to do a book nowadays that didn't touch on AI, because it's everywhere, and it's the only thing people care about, and it's the only thing people are talking about, which is kind of sad. But whatever, it happens. So there is a chapter in the book about AI and how to keep it human, but the majority of the book is about you and the frameworks and making you better. This is a great question. Why write the book now? Because man, the world is noisier than ever, and creative bravery is the only competitive edge left. I turned sort of my 25th year in marketing and thought, maybe it's time to finally write the damn book. Like my work's been featured in 5 New York Times bestselling books, and so that means that other people are getting famous off of my hard work. And I just thought, this is the time. And I've mentioned many times, I spent a lot of time with my dad while he was at the end of his life, and this was just something to sort of help me get through it. It was a very meditative process, and it was a very soul searching process. So again, it's something I'm very proud of. 24, how do I get the most out of the book? It's the cover of the book it's got post-it notes. And the reason the cover of the book has post-it notes is that's a popular thing that people use to brainstorm, to ideate and things like that. But I also want people to do that in the book. How do you get the most out of this book? Don't just read it. Like, you need to use it, circle things, yell out loud. Yes, steal the ideas and make them better. It's meant to be dog-eared. It's not meant to be kept pristine. If you want a pristine copy, buy two. But this should be your secret weapon to promotions, to standing out in your workplace, to launching your creative practice. If you've been downsized and all sorts of stuff. So next question, will I laugh reading it? If you don't, I've probably failed, but humor is subjective. I'm wearing my Neil Hamburger t-shirt. Neil's, I think, one of the funniest comedians in the world, but man, is he an acquired taste. And maybe I'm an acquired taste. I don't know. But even if you don't laugh, you're going to learn, and the stories will make your creative brain tingle. I almost said tinkle, but it's tingle. At least that's where my brain was going. Humor is part of my process and part of what makes it all stick. But, who knows? Maybe you're that person that has no sense of humor. Before I plow through another 20 questions or so, it's a shame no one's watching this thing. You're all missing out on something wonderful. But I'm going to tell you, I asked a psychic on Cameo. I paid like $10 or something I asked them if this book is going to be a success, because why leave it to chance when you can have somebody tell you it's going to be a success, because obviously they're psychics, they're and they know more than I do. So I actually haven't watched this video. We're going to share it at the same time, and we're both going to find out together if this book is going to be a success. So let's dive into that.
Hi, Saul. I want to start off by thanking you so much for your purchase. It is literally because of clients like you, because of supporters like you, that I can do what I do. And I just wanted to take a minute to tell you that I appreciate your purchase. Every purchase I appreciate. So thank you so freaking much, my friend. So Saul, let's have a look at, now that the deck is cleansed, what type of insight you are looking for tonight, my friend. So let's have a look. My first book, The Only Creative Process That Matters, is being released this week, and I would like you to let me know if it will be successful. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is the minute that I saw the title, I got tingling sort of in my fingers. Every time that I get tingling in my fingers, it is a sign that something is going to trend, something is going to do well. The only thing that I'm seeing is that it's going to do well when you release it. It's going to slow down a little for a few months, and then you're going to get the big break. So I don't know what it is about it. You're going to have sort of a big surge at the beginning where you're going to feel good about, and then it's going to slow down for maybe a month to a month and a half. After that, someone discovers you. I don't know what influencer, I don't know what person, I don't know if it's news, if it's radio, if it's TV, I don't know who finds you, but someone really influential is going to put their hands on the book by some, I don't know if it's you sending, I don't know how that happens, but I can tell you right now that it's going to make a big difference, because you are going to go from really small success to really big success in not a lot of time. I am one of these brutally honest readers, so I am one of those people that tell people they're not going to make the NHL, they're not going to make certain things, because I don't want to give false hope, but this is really going to be your big moment. Sometimes our big moment comes when we really need it, and I'm seeing that for you, it's about to happen. If we were to talk in a year, you would be in a place where your book is extremely popular and where you have an extremely big panel of experts that want to talk to you. This is really going to change your life. You just have to give it time, and I don't want you to get discouraged if the first few months you don't see the results that you want. The magic is going to be in getting discovered, and it's going to happen. Like I said, I do not give false hope. I think you are going to even be sitting at podcasts that a lot of people are going to dream about their entire life, which is awesome. You are going to pique the interest of quite a few experts, and it's definitely going to be worth it. You're going to be mentioned in magazines, you're going to be mentioned in a lot of places. So the universe really has this for you. It's just that it is warning you that maybe the first 2 to 3 months you might not see that excitement that you were hoping for. And the universe doesn't want you to give up. Just because you don't get that big moment at the first week, it doesn't mean that that big moment isn't going to happen. And when it does, you'll know it, because it is going to trend in a big way, and you are going to go from a place where you're going to feel a little discouraged to like, holy crap, where do I put myself? Because there's so much coming my way, but in the very best way. So Saul, I really hope this helps. I hope this gives you the insight that you needed. I really see you being successful. I see you sitting in podcasts. I see you talking to experts. I see you talking on the news, social media influencers, you name it, it's going to happen. The universe is excited for you, and I'm excited for you. So thank you again, and I really hope that this gave you the insight that you needed, my friend.
Well, look at that. I my psychic reading says that I'm going to be the biggest success ever in publishing. This book is going to be a rip roaring success. So how exciting is that? I just have to be patient. So let's stick with it. We've got another 10 hours of this filibuster until we get 100,000 books sold today. So let's just keep going. You know, will this work for a B2B brand? Yes, because great ideas don't care if your customer wears a hoodie or a suit. Word of mouth, emotion, creativity, they're just as powerful in boardrooms as they are on TikTok. And I got a lot of this same question, but sort of worded a little differently. So I'm condensing them all. Is this book just self promotion? And I already told you that like my original idea was to do kind of like a vanity project, and then I sort of did a J turn. As the kids would say, like fans of the Rockford File, and know what a J turn is. But I really kind of went in the other direction and made something that I think is valuable. So is this self promotion? No, I didn't write it to brag. I wrote it to help people to get unstuck and start making marketing that I would pay for. Yeah, I put my name on it, but the spotlight is on your ideas, and it's about what you do from the book, not about the book. Again, like I think I said this earlier, this is really like I want my legacy to be that you guys read something and did something, and like you moved forward with my frameworks and a way to do something, and keep this going long after I'm gone. It should really be like we're in desperate need of a revolution right now in creativity, because we're losing the war against AI. So if we want to stand up and if we want to be different, we have to actually stand up and be different. And this book is really the foundation of all of that. Question 28, will you sign my copy? Gladly. I'll even draw, a weird picture inside of it if you ask nicely. If you buy 100 copies or 1,000 copies, I'll try to hand deliver them if you're close by, maybe. Maybe I'll wear, a costume. Who knows? 29, what's the biggest takeaway from the book? The biggest takeaway is that creativity isn't optional. I truly, truly believe that. It's the best way to build things that last, with a process, which the book gives you, and a little courage. Anyone can create ideas that people care about. Um, you know, Question 30, where can I buy it? Amazon. We've got an ebook, a printed book. The Podio book will be on Audible, as well as Spotify and Apple Books, whatever it's called.
the audio book will be the end of the week or maybe a week today. And if you're feeling generous, and I would beg you to do this, leave a review. It helps way more than you know. So I've got like 20 more questions, but I want to try to, well, listen, I'll go through it, and then I'm going to probably play a few other things. Question number 31. What if I hate reading? Listen to the audio book. It's like hanging out with smart people who are way funnier than like a TED Talk. And there's zero shame in skipping to the juicy parts. This book wasn't written for rule followers. It was written for anybody. Do you need a big budget to use these ideas? No. Like, most of these ideas in the book were built from grit, charm, and a hairy chest. I don't know. Great ideas don't cost more; they make more. And like, if you have big budgets, that's wonderful. It means you can do things bigger. But like, don't let budgets discourage you from doing cool things. Question number 33, and I love this. 33, Larry Bird, my favorite basketball player. Is this one of those 10x your life kind of books? Oh my God, could my eyes roll back more into my head? This is not hustle cult manual. It's a creative process manual. There's no vague platitudes. There's no, O.J. Simpson, if I did it. This is just real frameworks that work in the real world. Question 34, did any of these books, any of the ideas in the book fail? None of them failed, but certainly a bunch of them weren't approved. And those stories are often the most valuable and the funniest. I believe in sharing scars, not just the trophies. One more question, number 35. Phil Necro, my favorite baseball player. Why didn't you get someone else to write it about you? I don't think anyone else can do my voice justice, and that's maybe just me being vain or whatever. And they probably would have deleted all the swearing and things like that. The book had to sound like me. Because it's literally like I'm pouring my heart out in this book. It's real, it's raw, and useful. I don't think that having someone else come in and do it would really be a good idea. I'm going to do something a little unusual here. Looking at my bookcase. Since I don't have any physical copies of the book, I was going to read you some of the book, but instead I'm going to read a couple pages from another wonderful book about creativity, Damn Good Advice. And you might ask yourself, why am I reading a book from someone else? And sort of like the theme of the book, why not? It's helpful. So I'm going to read one thing from here, and then we'll think. Okay. I was never a fan of the David Ogilvy School of Advertising. Read David Ogilvy's stifling rules and regulations on art direction in his highly regarded book, Confessions of an Advertising Man, to understand how far apart he and I were on the subject of creativity. My credo is that the only rule in advertising is that there are no rules, but what I think of Ogilvy culture, I certainly understood and practiced, was the need to create a specific, memorable, and unique visual identity that drew you into their long but beautifully crafted body copy. The Ogilvy masterpiece was the man in the Hathaway shirt. Stiffy but elegantly posing, ad after ad, wearing an overly crisp Hathaway shirt and an eye-popping aristocratic eye patch, and ordained with the same Baron Rangeril, some sort of English wit, I gathered. P.S. In 1959, before I started my own advertising agency in 1960, Mr. Ogilvy actually tried to convince me to go to Ogilvy and Mather as their head art director. But I knew his rules were not for me. He was one of the first people to call and congratulate me when I founded Papert Co. Lonis. So that's, George Lois, who I love. He's someone I admire a great deal. He even he called me a creative genius. But I'm going to read something else here because I think you're supposed to read books when you do kind of like a filibuster like this. So um, let's go. Sometimes the shocking way to solve a forbidding problem is to simply tell the truth. In 1959, Think Small was the big idea that sold a Nazi car into a Jewish town in New York nanosecond. Before Julian Koenig wrote the ad, all car ads were pure fantasy, using flattering illustrations or heavily retouched photographs to lengthen the lines of the brand being advertised, and the glitzy, glamorous imagery was accomplished by glib and meaningless copy claims. The bigger the vehicle, the better. Only a weird American would purchase such a small, ugly car. And ouch, it was common knowledge that before World War II, Der Fuhrer himself had given Dr. Ferdinand Porsche the order to invent the people's car. But when Think Small launched the Volkswagen campaign, their sales never looked back. America loved the ads and had learned to love the car. Koenig's copies simply told the truth about a small car that got great gas mileage, and art director Helmut Krohn showed a tiny Beetle in lackluster black and white. With a simplicity that proved far more powerful and persuasive than flash and empty flights of fancy, the Doyle Dane Bernbach campaign ran for years with a creative strategy so solid any number of talented DDB writers were able to continue creating brilliant ads for years. The car ran out of gas before the campaign did. Sometimes the big idea is hiding in the truth. And George Lois is somebody that has influenced me greatly. He's somebody that I've read everything I can about him. I've watched all his interviews. Really, brilliant, fascinating guy, and someone I always tried to sort of model my thinking after. And now that I've given you all of my secrets, you guys can model all of your thinking after me, which is only fair because I've written the only creative process book that matters, and that's what we should be doing. So, anyways, let's keep going with the questions. There's Don the Idea Guy. It's a great book too. Don, you were nice enough to send me a book. I haven't read it yet because I've been busy with this, but I plan on digging into it in the next week or so. But there's so many wonderful books out there that people should be watching and reading or listening to, or all sorts of things. Like this is how you learn, man, and like that, and I wish more people did too, because it's kind of crazy that people don't make like a bigger effort to educate themselves and buy books and really dig into them. Okay, question number 36. Why now and not 5 years ago? It's kind of a weird question. I don't even really know how to answer this, but 5 years ago, I don't think I had a reason to do it. I don't think that, I don't know. I think 5 years ago, people were still pretending the ads that blend in were clever. I think the world has finally caught up to bold ideas, and now felt like the right moment to take a big swing. And if we're to believe our psychic lady, this is going to be the biggest book of all time. Is this book only useful for marketers? Question 37. We'll send that out to Kevin Smith. Not at all. It's a book about how to think differently, not just how to sell widgets. Teachers, startup founders, comedians, even lawyers. It's designed for them. One of the early people I asked to read the book was a lawyer, and he told me it helped him a great deal. What is your creative process like, really? It's a little bit of controlled chaos. The frameworks in the book help tame the tornado ideas into actual campaigns, but my creative process is like, I like to just
let go and go in any direction you can. But by using these frameworks, it's kind of like giving your creativity a GPS instead of hoping it wanders into brilliance. So it's about going in as many different directions as possible, but having, some constraints and some boundaries to do it. I just noticed that some of these questions are getting a little repetitive because we're doing this live. I can't, screen everything, but how should I read this book cover to cover or jump around? I'd say, your first time through, read it cover to cover, but then afterwards, just like I said, every chapter is like a silo in some ways. So, go back over and over to the things that you need. It's a toolkit, not a novel. Flip to what you need. That said, read the intro. It sets the tone and gives context for the madness. And also, if you read it all the way through, like I said, chop it up, rip out pages, post them on the wall, scratch in the notes. Put post-it notes all over the place to remind yourself to go back. What's one thing you wish more people understood about creativity? I think I answered this already, so I'm going to change it a little bit and say, what's one thing you wish more people understood about me? I am a creative. I am a creative person. I've been creative my whole life, but it took me a long time to understand that it's not magic. It's not a God-given gift or something. It's practice. It's mostly bravery, and it's sometimes just pure desperation. You can't wait for inspiration. You have to hunt it. Like you can't, if a client says to you, maybe if you're, a self-sustained, painter or something, you can wait till something moves you. But if you're on a deadline or a client is paying you or someone's paying you, you can't wait for lightning to strike. You have to hunt it. And this book is the map to find those ideas. I almost never, ever, ever use the word create when it comes to ideas. I talk about finding the ideas or hunting the idea, because I truly believe most ideas have already been created. So, there's a whole chapter in the book where I talk about I haven't created anything ever. So it's really about knowing where to look, knowing where to find, knowing how to repurpose and things like that. Did AI help you write the book? No, it was me. There is a chapter about AI and sort of how to use my frameworks with AI, but this good or bad is all me. What's the boldest idea you've ever put into the world? I've talked many times about using skywriting or real clouds to advertise a cloud-based service. But we've done so many things. It was interesting to go through kind of my notes and my old Dropbox folders and all sorts of things, because if you'd ask me what the boldest idea I've ever put in the world, I'm going to say writing this book. Telling the truth about how ideas really happen might be the boldest thing I've ever done. Not a stunt, not a thing. What's a mistake people make when brainstorming? I think thinking the first idea is the best one. Or thinking the one that makes everybody feel safe is the best one. Those are usually, the obvious ones and the forgettable ones. Also thinking louder people in the room have better ideas. They don't. They're literally just louder. So, I don't know. We're almost getting to the end of this. What brands do you wish had this book before launching campaigns? I'd say any brand that's ever said in a room, let's make a TikTok trend without a single original thought, or any brand that thinks going, viral is a strategy. If we're to get specific, there's obviously a ton of brands that I love and would love to work with. some I've worked with in the past, some I'd like to work with again and stuff. But, like going down the list, I got, Nike, Porsche, Rolex, any of the movie production houses, love to work with, like there's hundreds of companies, and there's many streetwear brands that I'd love to work with. There's so many soda brands I'd love to work with. It's um, I work best with like challenger brands, people who are second, third, fourth, fifth in the market, who want to jump up on the rung and do some cool things. Those are the people I'm always most interested in. Will this book help me with social media content too? Of course, 100%. Creativity beats the algorithm every time. And this book is going to show you how to be more creative. This is an interesting question. What if I disagree with you? You're allowed to disagree with me. That means you're thinking. Just have the receipts for why you think you're right. This book is a launch pad for your version of creative bravery. But I'm not wrong here. So if you want to have a lively debate, I'm happy to do it. If you want to, tell me why you think I'm wrong, then, like I said, come with receipts, because I've got 25 years of experience here. Is there homework in the book? I wouldn't say there's homework. There's definitely an appendix with worksheets to help you sort of get going quicker and things like that. But it's not going to feel like homework. It's going to feel like making lightning in a bottle. And every chapter leaves you with something actionable, and actionable is where you actually improve. I don't want you to just feel inspired for 10 minutes from this book. I want this to actually and literally change the way you work. I want it to change the way you think, and I want it to make you better. Did I hold anything back? Of course I did. Like, there's lots of stories of people have screwed me over. There's lots of stories of people have tried to hurt me professionally. There's lots of stories how people were just generally not good people. That's not what the book's about. This is not a Kitty Kelly unauthorized biography of whoever. So did I hold anything back? Of course I did. I held back names. I held back, anything that didn't forward the cause of the book. Besides that, everything else is in there: the wins, the flops, the lessons, the magic. I left out names of like assholes, because I didn't think that was what the book was about. 49. Will I finish this book with ideas I can use? Not just ideas. You'll have a system to generate new ones forever. 30 plus use right now examples. This isn't a theory book. That kind of drives me crazy. These theory books. This is a toolbox. This is actionable. This is like, you could read this book 2 chapters in and already have, some of the baseline of what you're going to be doing next. If this is your creative process, this is our last question. I think we're at like 52. Why is it the only one that matters? And that's a great question. Because it's the only one, and I've read every marketing book. Like I've got books here. I've got 1,000 books over there. I've got another bookcase over there. I've read every marketing book almost that exists. I'm largely self-educated, and I'll tell you, this is the only one that puts emotion, storytelling, and talkability front and center. People don't share boring, and my frameworks make sure you never create boring again. Like that's the key to all of this. It's you can't be boring anymore, because boring never won. Boring was never the way to sort of like win on this stuff. But the thing is, beyond just like being boring, like boring isn't even going to cut through anymore. Where at one time maybe it did, but with
AI dumping so much stuff into the world right now, and everybody's a creator and everybody's posting all this stuff. The only way you're going to cut through at all ever is, at this point, it's almost being naked, and that's, it's basically Instagram right now. And, it's all about, come over to my OF. I'm going to show you just enough of, just to get you interested. I don't think you can show just enough to get people interested anymore. You have to outthink them. You have to be really, really great, and that's what this book is all about. It's about being great. It's not about fluffing me up. It's about doing really, really kind of amazing things. All right, I've spoken for an hour and a bit. We sold some books. I'm pretty happy, and it's. But I'm not giving up just because my psychic told me that this is going to be incredible. I you're going to hear me talk a lot about this, and I'm not giving up. I want this book to be successful, not just for myself, but for you people. So I'm going to play the psychic reading one more time, just so you really understand how big this could be.
Hi, Saul. I want to start off by thanking you so much for your purchase. It is literally because of clients like you, because of supporters like you, that I can do what I do. And I just wanted to take a minute to tell you that I appreciate your purchase. Every purchase I appreciate. So thank you so freaking much, my friend. So Saul, let's have a look at, now that the deck is cleansed, what type of insight you are looking for tonight, my friend. So let's have a look. My first book, The Only Creative Process That Matters, is being released this week, and I would like you to let me know if it will be successful. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is the minute that I saw the title, I got tingling sort of in my fingers. Every time that I get tingling in my fingers, it is a sign that something is going to trend, something is going to do well. The only thing that I'm seeing is that it's going to do well when you release it. It's going to slow down a little for a few months, and then you're going to get the big break. So I don't know what it is about it. You're going to have sort of a big surge at the beginning where you're going to feel good about, and then it's going to slow down for maybe a month to a month and a half. After that, someone discovers you. I don't know what influencer, I don't know what person, I don't know if it's news, if it's radio, if it's TV, I don't know who finds you, but someone really influential is going to put their hands on the book by some, I don't know if it's you sending, I don't know how that happens, but I can tell you right now that it's going to make a big difference, because you are going to go from really small success to really big success in not a lot of time. I am one of these brutally honest readers, so I am one of those people that tell people they're not going to make the NHL, they're not going to make certain things, because I don't want to give false hope, but this is really going to be your big moment. Sometimes our big moment comes when we really need it, and I'm seeing that for you, it's about to happen. If we were to talk in a year, you would be in a place where your book is extremely popular and where you have an extremely big panel of experts that want to talk to you. This is really going to change your life. You just have to give it time, and I don't want you to get discouraged if the first few months you don't see the results that you want. The magic is going to be in getting discovered, and it's going to happen. Like I said, I do not give false hope. I think you are going to even be sitting at podcasts that a lot of people are going to dream about their entire life, which is awesome. You are going to pique the interest of quite a few experts, and it's definitely going to be worth it. You're going to be mentioned in magazines, you're going to be mentioned in a lot of places. So the universe really has this for you. It's just warning you that maybe the first 2 to 3 months you might not see that excitement that you were hoping for, and the universe doesn't want you to give up. Just because you don't get that big moment at the first week, it doesn't mean that that big moment isn't going to happen. And when it does, you'll know it, because it is going to trend in a big way, and you are going to go from a place where you're going to feel a little discouraged to like, holy crap, where do I put myself? Because there's so much coming my way, but in the very best way. So Saul, I really hope this helps. I hope this gives you the insight that you needed. I really see you being successful. I see you sitting in podcasts. I see you talking to experts. I see you talking on the news, social media influencers, you name it, it's going to happen. The universe is excited for you, and I'm excited for you. So thank you again, and I really hope that this gave you the insight that you needed, my friend.
How exciting is that? Okay, we're going to take a break. We hit our goal. We didn't hit the 100,000 books sold, but we've sold some books, and that makes everything go down a little easier and stuff like that. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be a little gross about promoting this book and getting it out over and over and over, because I do think it's really important. But this is not going to be the only thing I'm talking about. I'm still going to be providing, proper content and things like that. So, it's not going to be just book for the rest of the time, but this is important. And I hope, you guys will give it a chance. So, like I mentioned earlier, in our telethon, we're going to close it out the way Jerry Lewis would close out all of his telethons with, a little song. So let's do that now.
Oh, hi. Good God's sake. Thank you. I have never really thoroughly explained the reason for the number that we close our show with. And it happened in about 1964 in New York, when a little boy stopped me in the lobby of the hotel who said, "Look, Jerry, I have only one cane." He was walking, well, with one cane. And I said, "Well, that's terrific, Tommy. I hope you feel good with it." He said, "Yes, I do." He said, "On the show, you should have a song for us." I wasn't clear. I said, what do you mean, Tommy? A song, a song that is only for us and everybody else has to get their own. I said, "What kind of a song?" He said, "You know that song where it says, walk on, walk on?" I said, "Walk on, walk on." Yeah, I know that, Tommy. He said, "Boy, if you did that and said it was for your kids and that your kids should be the only ones to enjoy it." I said, "Okay, watch the end of this show." And we tried it in '64, and it became very important to those out there that know it's strictly for them. It literally separates the audience from the dystrophic child. So I do it with love and affection and gratitude and appreciation that I am still breathing in and out, and I am vertical, which is so nice for a change. When you walk through a storm, keep your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Walk